Now, why do empires always fall? The real truth history taught us. What's the difference between an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, Julius Caesar, and Queen Victoria? Well, apart from the fashion choices and hairstyle standards, they all ruled some of the mightiest empires ever seen. Empires so grand, their names echo throughout history. Yet, do you notice something else in common? They all fell. Isn't it bizarre that no matter how advanced humans become, our greatest empires eventually collapse? Historian Arnold Toynbee spent his life exploring this question. Out of 26 civilizations analyzed in his comprehensive work, A Study of History, nearly all fell apart, unable to adapt. This begs the deeper question. Is history doomed to repeat itself? Or can we finally understand why empires fall? Grab a snack, sit back, and let's dive deep. Chapter 1. Overextension. Empires too big to succeed? Let's start with a simple analogy. Imagine owning a pizza restaurant. Business takes off. You open another and another. Soon, you have pizza joints across 10 cities, 50 cities, 100 cities. Sounds great, but there's a problem. How will you manage quality when you expand so rapidly? This is exactly how Roman emperors felt. At Rome's height, it spanned Britain's damp hills, the sands of North Africa, and the sizzling heat of the Middle East. It became the pizza chain owner of empires, overextended, overstretched, and somehow stuck. Historian Paul Kennedy captured this idea with one phrase: Imperial overstretch. In his book, The Rise and Fall of the Great Powers, Kennedy showed empires eventually spend more resources maintaining conquered territories than they actually gain from them. Here's why this matters. As distance increases, communication lags, taxes become difficult to collect, and rebellions spring up. Romans constantly fought insurgencies in Judea, modern-day Israel, in Britannia, and along the Rhine. Rome's legions became firefighters, running to extinguish endless uprisings, which gradually hollowed out its core strength. Takeaway. Rapid growth feels glorious, but becomes hazardous when an empire's ambitions outrun management capabilities. Keep that pizza chain small, folks. Chapter 2. Economic Mismanagement. Show me the money or not. Money troubles aren't new, but surely powerful empires were rich enough to avoid debt, right? Wrong. Let's talk about Spain. During the 1500s, Spanish galleons brought oceans of silver from South America to Europe, making Spain fabulously wealthy. But silver flooded markets, causing massive inflation. Prices soared, each silver coin became worth less, and Spain spiraled into debt despite its immense wealth. British historian Niall Ferguson brilliantly explains this paradox in his book, The Ascent of Money. Spain became rich in precious metals, yet trapped by debts because wealth alone isn't enough. Careful financial planning, stable taxation policies, infrastructure investments, these things matter. Much later, the Ottoman Empire faced similar problems, overspending on luxury palaces and costly wars without caring about finances. Debt and inflation weakened the economy until the once mighty empire became a shadow of itself, called the sick man of Europe. Takeaway. There's a huge difference between making money and managing money. Empires got rich but lacked the financial discipline to sustain themselves. Chapter 3. Corruption and Decay of Leadership. Power drives people crazy. Okay, this one's funny and sad. Ancient Rome saw Emperor Caligula, who was so arrogant, he made his horse, Incitatus, a senator. I'm not horsing around. That actually happened. It symbolizes how power blinds the ruling elite, feeding arrogance and incompetence. Another glaring example, China's Ming dynasty. Ming emperors began efficient, but became detached, bloated with luxury and decadence, trapped behind palace gates. Officials embezzled money, bribes dictated policy decisions, and eventually, rebellions erupted. The philosopher Montesquieu warned, the tyranny of a prince in an oligarchy is not so dangerous as the apathy of citizens towards it. Translation. If regular people don't care, and the powerful are corrupt, then the empire's doomed to fall. Time and time again, corruption poisons empires from within. Takeaway. Absolute power doesn't just corrupt absolutely, it eats empires from the inside out. Chapter 4. Technological Stagnation. Innovate or disappear. Can you imagine inventing something amazing, then letting someone else use it better than you? Welcome to the story of ancient China and gunpowder. Chinese alchemists invented gunpowder, but primarily used it in festivals and entertainment. Something like inventing airplanes and only flying them at air shows. Across the world, Europeans grabbed the gunpowder, turned it into cannons and rifles. The technological backbone for conquest and dominance in colonial expansion. Why did the Chinese Empire ignore innovation? Historian Jared Diamond explored this in his famous book, Guns, Germs, and Steel. He argued that empires ignoring new technologies eventually become outdated, vulnerable, and inevitably overtaken by more adaptable rivals. Similarly, the Ottoman Empire stubbornly clung to older military tools, while European powers embraced rapid advancements. Eventually, Europeans left the Ottoman army behind technologically, hammering the final nail in the Ottoman coffin. Takeaway: innovation isn't optional for survival, it's mandatory. Chapter 5: Cultural Rigidity. Change or fall apart. People resist change, that's nothing new. But what if resistance becomes the essence of society? Case in point is pre-revolutionary France. Aristocrats and royalty sat comfortably in immense luxury, ignoring widespread poverty and suffering under increasingly unbearable taxes and starvation. Whenever the population demanded reforms, elites shrugged with disdain. They had cake to eat, right? Ignoring calls for social reform is historically suicidal. Rome's insistence on slave labor led to constant internal rebellions. Russia's Tsar stubbornly rejected change, leading directly to a revolution. Same story, different continents. Empires fell repeatedly due to rigid resistance against vital societal reform. Samuel P. Huntington's Clash of Civilizations outlines clearly: when cultures and societies refuse compromise and innovation, internal tensions often explode violently. Takeaway: embrace societal change, or else history demands repayment, often brutally. Chapter 6: Damaging the Environment. Mother Nature always wins. Humans haven't exactly been environmental saints. The perfect example is Easter Island, home to those giant stoneheads, Moai statues. Islanders cut countless trees to move statues, gradually deforesting their entire island. Eventually, food sources vanished, society collapsed, and their great civilization vanished almost overnight. Jared Diamond explored similar ecological collapse in his book, Collapse, examining Mayan civilization droughts, Greenland's Norse settlers, and others. Today, climate change once again threatens human civilization globally. Unsustainable empire building, without environmental foresight, pollution, resource exhaustion, biodiversity loss, is potentially catastrophic. Takeaway: empires failing environmental tests are destined for disaster. Chapter 7: External Invasions. Watch out for barbarians. Sometimes danger lurks outside. Rome collapsed when Gothic barbarians overwhelmed defensively, overstretched, internally divided Roman territory. The Mongol Empire destroyed great empires from Persia to China. However, external threats almost always succeed due to internal weaknesses: incompetent governance, divided leadership, failing economy, corruption, loss of national identity. Eastern Rome, Byzantium, survived centuries longer than Western Rome precisely by being more politically coherent and economically cautious. Takeaway: external threats exploit internal weaknesses. Wise empires strengthen internally first. Chapter 8: Is America Falling? The Empire on the Edge. All right, folks, let's shift gears. Fast forward from Rome's majestic ruins and Spain's silver-infused chaos, all the way to 21st century America. Hold on to your popcorn, because this is where things get real. Today, the United States stands as arguably the most powerful country on earth. It leads economically, militarily, technologically, and culturally. Apple, Google, Netflix, American brands rule globally. America's military reaches every corner of the planet, with hundreds of bases worldwide. It's empire-level stuff. But here's a provocative question. Is the American empire starting to crumble? Are we witnessing its slow-motion downfall? Or is this just another blip? Let's break it down thoughtfully. Take a deep breath, because we're about to get brutally honest about America's empire-like cracks. 1. Economic instability and debt crisis. Let's start with money, honey. Remember when we mentioned Spain collapsing under debts, despite its tremendous silver treasury? America isn't swimming in South American silver, yet ironically, it's swimming in debt. Today, the U.S. debt is glaringly massive, over $36 trillion in 2025, and steadily rising. That's trillion with a T. For perspective, that's roughly $109,000 debt per U.S. citizen. Each year, America borrows more and more to fund basic government operations. Historian Niall Ferguson eloquently explains such risks in The Ascent of Money, noting how massive debt weakens a nation's ability to respond to emergencies, invest in growth, or sustain power. America still enjoys global financial dominance, but unchecked borrowing resembles stepping onto thin ice. One wrong move risks falling through completely. 2. Internal division and cultural polarization. Empires don't just crumble from outside invasions. Often they decay internally. Today, America feels more divided than ever. Political polarization is at record highs. According to Pew Research, partisan hostility between Republicans and Democrats in 2022 is the most polarized it's been in decades, beyond even the turbulent 1960s. Social media echo chambers inflame arguments and erode common understanding, fracturing public trust. Violent confrontations, protests, disinformation, and conspiracy theories increasingly characterize America's social atmosphere. Historically, when empires turn inward and citizens see their fellow countrymen as enemies rather than fellow citizens, unity dissolves and stability is compromised. Rome tore itself apart through civil battles. America must heed the same warning signs. United you stand, divided you quickly fall. 3. Massive overspending on military and imperial overextension. Does America have an imperial overstretch problem as described by historian Paul Kennedy? With hundreds of military bases abroad, more than 750 across over 80 countries, the U.S. spends around $800 billion every single year on defense, more than the next 9 countries combined. While a strong military has undeniable importance, historians repeatedly observe empires weakening by excessive military spending abroad and minimal investment domestically, education, healthcare, infrastructure. Sound familiar? While bridges crumble back home, billions flow continuously overseas. Eventually, budgets crumble, voters get tired, troubles at home mount, and empires retract under financial and infrastructural strains. 4. Systemic corruption and declining trust in institutions. In ancient Rome, senators pocketed bribes while citizens lost trust. Similar suspicions increasingly define American politics today. According to Gallup, trust in U.S. institutions and leaders, government, media, healthcare, has plummeted dramatically, reaching historically low levels. Polls show just 20% of Americans trust Washington to do the right thing consistently. From lobbying scandals to financial manipulations, many Americans believe their government serves powerful corporations rather than ordinary citizens. When ruling elites lose legitimacy, empires lose stability. 5. Technological complacency and global competition. While Silicon Valley remains innovative, America faces serious competition from rivals such as China. The U.S. once led unquestionably in crucial technological areas like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, renewable energy, and quantum computing. Today, China invests massively in these sectors, rapidly catching up or moving ahead in critical technologies. Historian Jared Diamond argues clearly, civilizations that lose their innovative advantage and become complacent rapidly decline. Tech wars today will define tomorrow's empires. America no longer has guaranteed dominance. 6. The environment. Unsustainable practices. Historically, no empire survived ignoring environmental stresses. Today, America faces extreme climate events increasingly routinely: California wildfires, coastal hurricanes, devastating droughts. Despite extensive scientific consensus, environmental challenges often go sidelined politically. America's global leadership on climate change waxes and wanes, despite worsening evidence. All empires depend fundamentally on natural resources and ecological stability. Addressing environmental challenges is no longer optional. It's existentially mandatory. Ignore nature today. Expect catastrophe tomorrow. Is America actually falling? Taking these factors together, America faces very real threats historically known to topple empires: unsustainable debt, internal divisions, corrupted leadership, overstretched military commitments, complacency, and ecological vulnerability. Yes, that's a lot. Yet America remains uniquely dynamic, highly innovative, flexible, and capable of remarkable shifts in policy direction. This means a fall is not yet inevitable. But it takes humble acknowledgement and swift, effective leadership to reverse these troubling trends. The challenge and opportunity. Human history provides clear, honest lessons. Even the strongest, richest, or most technologically advanced empires collapse under arrogance or blindness. History clearly demonstrates one powerful truth. Societies that recognize their vulnerabilities early, embrace change swiftly, and adapt wisely can create entirely new prosperous realities, avoiding the mistakes of their fallen predecessors. America's future isn't written in stone. Past empires like Britain dramatically reinvented and adapted, transforming collapse into renewal. America can do likewise, but it requires genuine humility, courageous honesty, empowered citizens demanding accountability, and an adaptable system willing to reform deeply. America, will you learn from the great empires of the past, or stubbornly walk the same dangerous path toward collapse? Like Mark Twain reminded us, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. It's time for America to listen closely and carefully. Takeaway: change isn't easy, but it's always possible. Preventing an American collapse will take conscientious citizens, courageous leaders, investment in renewing infrastructure and education, unity over division, financial caution, renewed technological focus, military restraint, and environmental responsibility. The choice is ours to make. The signs of danger are clear, but so is the path forward. Will we follow history towards collapse, or wiser toward renewal? The next chapter in history is yours to help write. Conclusion: history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Mark Twain famously said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." We see the same patterns repeatedly because humans remain fundamentally unchanged. Ambitious yet short-sighted, innovative yet complacent, capable yet corruptible. This begs our final question. Can we learn from past mistakes, break historical cycles of rising and falling empires? The answer isn't about nations, flags, or kings. It's about us, individually and collectively. History teaches us humility, adaptability, wisdom, careful management, compassion, and responsibility toward our environment. Ultimately, no empire lasts forever, but wise civilizations learn from history, adding valuable chapters of progress to humanity's unfolding story. Ask yourself honestly, are you ready to live differently, avoiding mistakes of fallen empires, and contribute to the next chapter? History waits for your answer. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed the journey through history. See you next time.